Hey guys, so it is early in the morning, but people have been blowing up my social media to talk about the hottest of hot topics, trans bathrooms. And I find it so funny that this is such a hot topic because, I don't know, I'm trans and I've never ever had an issue using any public restroom. I know that's just my experience, and people get so upset when I talk about my experiences because they say, well, you're not everyone else. Yeah, I know, honey, but that doesn't mean I can't talk about it. Right? And this is a topic that I feel like only a small fraction of the people who are talking about it are able to maintain any sort of objectivity. And that's going to be the goal of this video, to be as objective as I can be. And you may feel like me being trans myself actually hinders me being able to be objective in this instance, but I would argue that there are very few people who have taken as objective as a stance as I have on the trans community. I've both defended and criticized trans people depending on the issue because, believe it or not, contrary to popular belief, the world is not just black and white. President Trump is currently under fire for rolling back transgender protections put in place by Barack Obama that enabled children in public schools to enter the bathroom that matches their gender identity. It also allowed kids to use whichever locker room corresponds with their gender identity. So Obama's policy essentially made every bathroom gender neutral because any kid could enter any bathroom citing gender identity as the reason. And if schools didn't comply, they risked losing their funding. So I'm someone who does believe in transgender rights. What do I look like? Someone who wants to walk around with no rights? No, thank you. However, I actually took an intensive look at Obama's policy and I'm not losing sleep over it being pulled back. And here are my reasons why. Obama's policy was much too broad and it included locker rooms where people change. And I'm sorry, regardless of how you feel about yourself, if you have a penis, you do not belong in the women's changing room. And if you have a vagina, you do not belong in the men's changing room. That's just how I feel, and I understand that that's my arbitrary line, but I think that's a lot of people's arbitrary line as well. I also would have had a lot more sympathy toward the policy if it included some sort of stipulation where children were required to present some sort of formal diagnosis from a doctor, and that doctor worked with the faculty to say, this is what's appropriate for this kid. This is what's best for this kid. In the same way that anyone else with any other kind of issue or diagnosis has to get the doctor's involvement for, special arrangements to be made for that kid. There's a difference between identifying as transgender and being transgender. Was the kid diagnosed? Is the kid transitioning? And you guys know my personal feelings about children transitioning. I am against it. But I still have the utmost sympathy for kids that are transitioning, and the fact that I'm against it doesn't change the fact that it is happening. This is my issue with most policies regarding trans people. Usually, more times than not, if you just dial it back 1 or 2 notches, it becomes much more reasonable. It becomes unreasonable when you're including showers and changing rooms, and anyone can just say they're trans rather than actually providing proof. Just dial it back a little bit. And listen, I know that people love to paint me as someone who has hatred or doesn't care about trans kids, and that is not the case. I believe that children struggling with their gender deserve so much love and support and help, but it's hard for me to lose sleep at night that a policy that is so poorly structured was rolled back. I think this is an issue that has so much more nuance attached to it than people on either side are really willing to acknowledge. If you're in the camp of bathroom free-for-all, changing room free-for-all, any kid is trans as long as they say so, I'm sorry, but I can't get with it because my inner conservative is screaming. And if you're in the camp of all trans people are predators who are going to rape people as soon as you let them in the bathroom, I'm sorry, I can't get with it because my inner liberal is screaming. There's so much more to this than people are really willing to admit. Another aspect of this is that I feel like most people forget that the trans community is very, very small. There's only a handful, like 1 to 3 trans kids in any given school, if that. And so with so few kids actually being trans, I feel like this should be handled on an individual basis between kids, parents, faculty, and doctors. All these forces working together to decide what is best for this individual particular child. I don't think a blanket policy that affects all students is really the best route to go. And I really hate when politics devolves into fights and arguments where children are left in the middle, children are left hanging in the balance. Do not use kids as political pawns to paint Republicans as evil children haters, and don't paint children as sex offenders and rapists either. So I hope that clears up my position on this matter. A lot of people wanted to know how I felt about all of this. I do have to go now. I'm heading to Oakland for the weekend to hang out with my best friend. I know that sounds ghetto, but we're going to be in the non-scary, nice part of Oakland. And until the next video, love you.